This is your favorite Latina ref, Layne Rosario, and you're now watching the three count podcast. And if you don't check them out, I may count you out.
When in it, an unbelievable weight that you might hate, but you can't even
During high class, we find that drag ball at.
Well, now, by now, you know what that means, because normally we come in with this, like, hot, flashy intro, but this is kind of a nice, chilled out section, and that means that this is now entering the ring 201, and you know who I am, Clifford Red Dawg, the man that leads you up this mountain called wrestling. And that's right, by now, you already know, you should be saying it with me, I am your Sherpa, because that's what I am when I lead you up this mountain. Right? But it's never about me. It's about who's entering, and you see her right next to me. It is the lady ref herself, Layne Rosario. You know, she used to be on this show, and then, you know, some things happened, and she kind of went away. But she was our first female guest on our show, and now she's back to wrap around. Welcome, Layne, to the show.
Well, thanks for having me back. Yeah, it's been a while and a crazy journey through this thing we call life. And here we are, better, faster, stronger.
Yeah, definitely. It's been crazy because like we did the first interview. I think you were like episode like 8 or 9, like you're just right in the mix. And you know, obviously we had met because of Eric, you know, our friend from my friend from the Air Force, your friend who was not in the Air Force at the time when you guys were friends. um, but then we developed this friendship and we kind of like talk in and out all the time about like how things are going, how things are looking, and it's been interesting because I watch your journey, you watch my journey, and then like we watch we see all our mutual friends, and we're always like, yo, how is it we friends with that person too?
It's like a small world that known as like pro wrestling. Hello, it was a small world with Eric as well too, because
Yes.
Eric was at one point family to me, but in the Air Force with you. So like it's just funny how small the world can be, and especially in professional wrestling. It's not even like 10 degrees of separation, it's like minus 10 degrees of separation. You literally go on social media and you're like, "Oh, you know that person too? Okay, we all know the same people. Got it."
I legitimately like smile every time I look because I think about those all the time where it's like, yo, like I am legitimately one link away from connecting with like that person. And it's just so odd to think of like how close you can be to someone, yet you are still so far away from that person at the same time. Cause I remember like I had a friend who so like my trainer who I'm an acquaintance with his friend and his friends like, you know, we'll put it out there like this. I'm not gonna put names out there, but he could be, you know, Le Champion, formerly known as. But it's weird that I'm just like, yo, I'm legit like one link away from like someone like that, but like just randomly running into them. And it's crazy and it blows my mind every single time I think about like this business and being that far away from somebody.
Yeah. It's literally you could be friends with somebody who's friends with somebody else who's on your TV every week or has been doing this on TV for well over 10, 20 years. It's just such a that's what I love about this business, honestly, is the you never know what could happen to you. And it's such a roller coaster ride of an adventure that that's the part that makes me smile and almost like, huh, I wonder what's going to happen next, or who am I going to meet next, and what opportunities, because you just never know what opportunities can come next.
Yeah, it's funny because like with the podcast and stuff, like I just run into people in the locker room and I'm like, you know what? I normally would not go out of my way to ask this question, but I'm going to ask this question. And I'm like, let me just, because at that point, now it's like a business thing. Cause I'm like, yo, like, I'm trying to learn from you. Let me ask you on this podcast, like some questions and stuff and figure it out. But then, like, now, like, I become like, and I don't want to say like I become that guy because that's not what I mean, but I become that person that like people see me in the locker room. And they're like, oh, you're the guy with the podcast. I'm like, yeah, that's me with the podcast.
Hey,
So
you
it's
could
kind
be
of
known
fun.
for worse things. So if
Right.
you're the guy for the podcast, cool. That means people are going to want to talk to you because that's exposure, that's content, that's, you're a talker, so they know they can feel comfortable with you. So that's a good thing to be known for.
Yeah, it's been funny too because like even with this show, you know, I've had people who've come back and talked to me and they're like, it's so weird because like you'll see you think about those moments where like somebody will say something ridiculous on the podcast and you're just like,
Mhm.
why would they say something like that? And I had someone recently tell me they're like, I now understand why people because like they tell me all the time, they're like, you just have this ability to like bring people's guards down, and then they just like open up and start talking about all sorts of stuff. And I'm like, yeah, you know what? It is what it is. I just have fun talking to people, and you're right. Like I just have a tendency of like bringing people's guards down and be like, hey man, like it's between you and me. We having this conversation. And coincidentally, this podcast among the hundreds of people who want to listen to it.
But I
But
feel like you do. That's all. I can co-sign with that. But here's the funny part is I do that in real life. I'll be places and I don't even say a word, and I'll have like the older Hispanic women try to speak to me in Spanish. I'll have people to say, "Hey, honey, how's your day going?" And I'm like, "Do I know you?" Like, and you'll laugh about this. The ex New Yorker in me is like, why are you talking to me right now? But I have to realize I live in the South now, and I can't do those things. So I'm like, well, I'm good. How are you? And then when I go home to New York, I'm that person that's just like, hey, I hope you're having a great morning. I don't know, maybe something about our personalities just draws people to let their guard down because they feel like we're a safe space. That could be it too.
what's crazy is like because you know it too, and we have this like personality where like people like kind of like gravitate to us, right? But I've never had that moment where I've gravitated towards somebody, right? Up until recently, I was at a show and I saw somebody walk, right? And it kind of caught my attention. I kind of looked over and I was like, oh, who's that person, right? I just didn't think about it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not gonna name drop them. I'll tell you about it after. But yeah, they caught my attention, and it was the first time where I found myself like, "Oh, I feel like I could just walk up to them, and like I haven't seen them in like forever, and I just want to go and have like a full conversation with them." Yeah, I had no idea who I am. I was like, it made me want to go to to them, and then I started understanding why people feel that way, like with me, that they want to.
You froze. You froze. Where are you? You're back. I cannot hear you if you're saying anything. Jackie.
Should be better now.
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah, that was wild. Like my whole computer just turned blue screen and just went out. And I was like, what? It's the first time that's
I stayed
happened.
for a few more minutes and I'm like, well, I'll come out too. So it's probably like blank screen for a little bit.
That's
I
fine.
went I went on Instagram real quick and Michael Rappaport posted a video. Go watch it when we're done.
Okay.
Okay.
So where did we leave off? Was it the
Your innate personality of having people flock to you. That you
yeah.
met this person in the locker room. That's where we were at.
All right, hold on. So we'll go 3, 2, 1. Yeah, so there was an yeah, so I met this person and I just got like gravitated to him and I was like, yo, that's what it must feel like to have someone like just gravitate towards me. And I was like, it was insane. I was like, I've never had that happen. I was like, it was pretty wild.
I can imagine. I mean, I've had it happen once or twice with friends of mine. And especially recently, it's happened with a particular friend. And I'm like gravitating toward this person more. And I'm like, oh, that's what it must feel like then when people are curious about me and, gravitate this direction. That's what it's like. Okay, cool.
Yo, hey, so listen, like uh I we were talking about this kind of beforehand, right? So I've now been now in this crazy world, business, sport, performance. Everybody has a different name for it. For a little over 2 years now, right? And I've just been thinking back, like man, like what would you looking back on my own journey? Like I've seen things that like help me grow and become a better wrestler, right? But I'm kind of curious, like when you see that person come up to you and you like ask them like how long have you been in a business, or how long have you been in a sport, and they tell you like 2 years. What are kind of like some of the things that you look at them and then and try to have like expectations of like where they're supposed to be at and like their sense of training?
I don't, to be honest with you, because there's some people, and hear me out with my logic. There are some people that are 6 months in and they just get it. There are people that are 6 or 7 years in, don't get it. I was one of those people that it took me going into stripes to figure out my place in the wrestling industry. Like it took me doing that to get the confidence, the aha to like get it, like the it thing. The it thing can happen for everybody at different moments. So I don't really go into it with a preconceived notion of what this person should be at. But I'll tell you right now, and I said it to you off the record, I'm gonna say it to you on the record. I am so stinking proud of you. And to see
Uh,
where you've gone and see where you're going, like I just can't wait to see what you do next. But like I said, I don't have any preconceived notion of where people can go because like I said, as especially now as a referee, I see all walks of time frame in the ring. And for me, I like working with newer people because then in the ring, I can help you with communication and things like that. Or if you need me, or for the people that have been doing it for longer, it's a back and forth.
I feel like that's the one thing that like I've like started to learn and like utilize a lot more was like listening to like because we'll talk to the referee and sometimes we'll see like the ref will say something like hey like you guys are doing good or let's go ahead and wrap this up like they get it so it's cool to be able to like interpret somebody else and be like all right cool let's just go ahead and we'll take this home right
Yeah.
but in other aspects too I feel like one of the things like I'm still like learning and developing right and everybody will say this right like putting together a match like that's always like really tough and especially for me right now it's still a learning process of building those blocks but the other part that I feel like I'm still like learning and understanding is listening to the crowd, which is like one of those things like people don't really talk about a lot. Is that like we're meant to build these like stories where like you put people on a high and you take people on a low and you build them back up and then like and then you go home, right? It's this aspect of like listening to the crowd and knowing like all right they're feeling down right now all right they're slowly getting back into it all right let's start getting back into it like start throwing some punches or like do this or do that so I like really depend a lot like on the veterans to like help like guide me through that for right now because I know like eventually it's going to be me having to take those reins and like guide somebody else through it
Hmm.
Or God forbid, let's say somebody gets injured and like all of a sudden like they're like, hey, what are we doing next? Like, oh, we're gonna do this and this, right? To like help facilitate. I had a situation where I had someone who was uh I was in a three-way match, and the guy he was our veteran person. He was just like, he just grabbed me and he pulled me in. He was like, I am so lost. What's happening next? And I was like, just hit, and I said it like that. I was like, just cry, chop me in the throat, and then go through the spine buster. And he was like, okay. And so like it was the whole like AO, like I have to help pull like everything around, and I get to practice it every once in a while if that makes sense, but like doing it in a match is like so much harder.
Yeah, because you don't have the, what is it? Because it's right on the fly. You're right on the spot. It's all the pressure that's on it. And kudos to you for going through that and saying, hey, so this is where we're at. Here's where we are, because that only makes you better in the ring. Those learning experiences help you grow. So the more that you can get experience, whether it's calling on the fly, being able to remember a match to call it back to somebody else, practice that as much as you can, because that'll only help you in the long scheme of things. And having that experience for you, I'm pretty sure after that you were like, okay, I need to continue this because now I'll need it just in case. Because like you said, what if somebody does get hurt?
Well, it was funny because like having and not that we'd be like, hey yo, check out who we had on our show, but we had Just Incredible on the show, and that was something that he had mentioned. He was like, uh plan the beginning, plan the end, and then just live in the moment in the middle. He's like, don't
Yeah.
worry about that. And he's like, and do everything else on the fly. So when I put a lot of our like matches together, like for practice matches, stuff like that, that's what I do. I'm just like, hey, this is what we're gonna do at the beginning, this is what we're gonna do at the end. Don't worry about the middle. We'll figure it out.
Because
So like,
honestly, in this day and age, that's kind of a lost art form, because you do see in a lot of places that people plan out every step from A to Z of their match, and it's almost too choreographed at that point. You're not leaving room for the fans at that point. You're basically telling them, here's our salsa, and you're just going to watch it. Here's our
yeah,
dance move, and you're just going to watch it. You're not making them any part of that. If you do it where you're doing the match based on their reaction and how they're reacting to certain things, you're telling the story with them instead of them being like, here it is, watch it, that's it. So I feel like he was right in that aspect, to just the beginning and the end. This way you have that middle to kind of customize it for the people that you're working in front of.
yeah, it's fun. It's fun to like call things on the fly and just kind of listen. Like I know one of my favorite things, and I pride myself on this, right? I really do. But I was in the back. I was talking to this veteran, 20 plus years experience, and the first thing he asked me, he was like, "All right, Red Dog, what do you do?" And I was like, "I just listen." And he looked down, he looked at it, he just started smiling. He goes, I like that. He's like, "What do you really do? And we'll talk more about it, and we'll figure out what we can do." And I was like, "Yes, we're in," because I I do. I listen. That's all I need to do. I take bumps and I sell. That's what I do. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
just funny seeing his like smile at me about it.
Yeah, because it's an honest answer. Because if you don't have things that you do, or if you're newer, you're like, that's you kind of showing him respect. Like, hey, this is your world, because you're the veteran in the ring. I'm going to listen to you, and that's what it's going to be.
Yeah, and
So by you saying that probably made him laugh, because he's like, okay, so this kid gets it. You know what I mean? Not calling you a kid, but you know what I mean? Like, this kid gets it. And then when
yeah,
you say, and then when they ask you, here's my 5 moves to do. I do this, I do this, I do this, I do this, I do this. Here we are.
that's
How
exactly what it
convenient.
is.
Yep.
I enjoy it so much. And it's fun because like in those aspects, like you get the real you one, obviously we talk about like the ability to break down walls, but that's what's important, is that you want to be able to get behind those scenes and be able to talk to those people about really what they want to do and what they want to accomplish. And I do see a lot of guys who are like, I do a I do a corkscrew moonsault from the second rope. Uh, that's like my favorite move to do right now. And I hit a 720 Canadian destroyer, and you're like, why? There's
Mhm.
like there's and listen, I perform at 100% all the time, whether there's 20 people in the crowd or 200 people in the crowd. But regardless, there are certain moves that I'm gonna do if there's 200 people in the crowd versus 20, because like at the end of the day, I don't know. I just feel like there's certain moves that I don't need to hit if I don't have to.
But it's also one, playing to the crowd that you have. Two, I mean, with that, like playing to the crowd that you have. And if you have, and it's also not even just the numbers of who you're playing to, it's also the type. If you have all adults, they're going to expect different moveset than what kids are going to do.
Yes.
Where certain, you have to play to the environment that you're given. If it's a bunch of kids, you could do like the funniest things and make it all personality, and they'll get behind it as long as you're like a legitimate bad guy and then you're a legitimate good guy. For them, they like that. If it's for grown adults, you're going to have to up that ante a little bit, because they're not going to be, well, some of them are not going to be happy with just, okay, so we did personality stuff, we did character work, we told a story. I think that, you don't have to do the Canadian destroyers no matter what the show is. I mean, that's up to
Right.
you, but like telling the story, I feel, means more than the moves.
I love character work. That's my number one thing I love doing. I love like whether I'm like the heel, the face, or a tweener, it doesn't really matter to me. I just love like getting the crowd like invested in me. Like we were recently at at a show. Uh I was we me and the other guy, well, I would just put out there, me and Chaz and I, we didn't even want to establish who's face and who's heel. We just wanted to go out there, show off what we can do, have a lot of fun, tell a story about two young lions who, and I know for God's sakes, I'm not that young, right? But two young lions who wanted to go out there and just tear the house down. And that's what we did. And I remember this one little girl, she was on my side and she was like cheering me and stuff like that. And Chaz was like trying to be the baby face. So he like over and he's like, give her a high five. And she's like, no. And she like booed him like right to his face. And,
She gave him a heel turn. Got it.
yeah,
Okay.
and she was like totally on my side. And
But
at one
that's
point,
but how cool did that feel? That
oh
she
yeah.
established that based on what you guys did. Who was the heel in that? Like that must have felt cool. Like even from a funny part of that. You know what I mean?
Oh, I love it because like one of my favorite things to do is like I'll hang on the second rope and I'll look out in the crowd. I'll find like that one kid that's like looking at me. I'll make eye contact with him. And I'm just like, yo, tag me in, bro. Tag in. I can't do that. And like you just see the horror in their face, like, no, I'm not coming in. And I'm like, you're not helping me at all, man. You're supposed to be on my side.
It's
And
you're being mean.
yeah. Like I was uh I was in a ring with another dude named Cade Lothbrock who was he has a reputation, but he's such a nice dude. Like and I looked at a kid and I was like, yo, tag me in. And that kid was just like, no, not
No,
at all.
nope.
I was like, all right, fair enough, man. I'll do this on my own. But it's one of my favorite things to do is to reach out and like try to connect with those people like that are like trying to really like get invested in me, or they're just invested in a match, but try to draw like more people just to get their eyes on me because my character talks a lot of trash and it is not making no secret. And I don't know, and that's something I think with my character that I'm starting to get more and more comfortable with is like just having those conversations like in a ring about somebody's character. Like I just have no problem like talking about somebody in the ring at all. It's just I don't know. And I'm not even a heel. Like I'm a face that just lives a very Deadpoolish life.
Hey, there's nothing wrong with that. Pop culture does get a lot of play nowadays. So if you can bring part of that to yourself and people still dig it, cool, why not?
I had was that? Somebody called me in a promo. They called me a knockoff B-rated Deadpool, and I was like, I'm not even mad about this conversation. That's very good. It's like
You're like, nope,
I
not mad
appreciate
at
it.
it at all. You're like this. I see what you did there. I see what you
Mhm.
did. But isn't it
But
the greatest feeling in the world to connect with like kids? I love that. Even as a referee, I still get it too, which is funny because the last show that I did for Mission Pro was in San Antonio, and there was a little girl there that came with a sign, and it said "We Heart Ref Lane" on it, with like a little ref shirt and a little heart, and I was just like, you, I literally looked when I came out into the ring and I saw it because I saw it while I was in the ring, and I was just like, yep, not crying. Yep, not crying. I gotta stay still face. Yep, not crying. Mm-mm. But it's the little things in those moments. That's why I love storytelling in the ring so much because as a kid, it was what I was into. So to see other people do it and how the crowd gets so into it is what I love.
I'm not gonna front, like, I'm not waiting for that day where you're a ref in my match. I cannot wait because I know, like, you travel all over, whether you're in New York or you're in Florida, you're out in Texas, you're in Tennessee, you're in Chicago, like, you're, like, everywhere, and it's like, I one day when we're, like, in Delaware, like, or wherever we are, it's gonna happen. I'm just like, I can't wait for that day because 'cause I'll be the kid in the candy store. Cause it's funny because like one of our mutuals, right, Gabby Gilbert, like I knew eventually like I would cross paths with her. I just didn't know
Yeah.
where. And then just like randomly at a show, she was there and we were both working at the show. And I got all giddy and the first thing I did was took a picture and then sent it to you because I was like, look who I'm with. And I
You're
was
like, I
like,
finally met her. She's
yeah.
not just a computer. She's not just a computer screen.
But I was so I don't know, it was just like I don't know, it was like that happy feeling. And it's like you make so many connections with people like in this business and it's just so weird to like when I go and meet people and I'm like, "Oh, hey, yeah, I forgot this is the first time that we've actually met because we've had this podcast. This is the first time we've actually met behind the scenes." I'm like, this is unique."
Yeah, and it's funny because we have such a friendship and we've never really physically even been in the same room ever, ever in life. Like, oh, hey, Eric, I have this friend. Oh, okay, cool. Oh, so we're just gonna be besties now. Got it. Okay, cool. We'll leave you out of the conversation.
Right? I'm sure he's like back there, he's just like, I wonder how many times they've actually like interacted and talked and Loki didn't even know. Like we're probably like weekly, bi-weekly, just like, hey yo, what you doing this weekend? Yeah.
Let me do my check-in. Okay. Let's see what Red Dog's up to this week. Okay, cool. You're alive. All right, got it. I'm alive, you're alive. We're doing stuff. We're doing good. Okay, here we are.
Actually, you know what's funny is you have no idea like how many times like I'm wearing your t-shirt like in the gym and someone comes up to me, they're like, yo, I really like your t-shirt. Where'd you get that? I'm like, yo, I got a Pro Wrestling Tees. It's one of my friends. And they're like, nah. And then I go back and find all your videos and stuff. I'm like, yeah, this is her. Check it out. And then they're like, holy
Aw.
crap, you really know her? Yeah. And you probably see it a lot in the videos where I'm just like lifting because like finally like hey listen like I am that douchebag in the gym where I like cut the sleeves off like some of my t-shirts and if I'm not wearing one religiously like I go ahead and just cut the sleeves off and I'm like, oh, I'm just gonna take it to the gym with me, it'll be there. So it's like in my weekly rotation now where at
All
least
right, I
once
need a gym selfie then. This way I can post it and be like, okay, look at this one.
I'll get one, I'll send it over to you.
I need
um
one of yours too, by the way.
whatamaneuver.net, it's so weird, it's right there.
It's pretty good.
Uh, but yeah, no, I definitely like have so much fun, like especially like where our friendship is like taking off. Like I know I can hit you up like at any time and either ask you like a quick question or something that you would do like in a character scenario or something that like if I ever feel like I'm stalling out, I know I come to you and talk to you about those kind of things. Because it was weird like recently, and this was like only like a couple weeks ago. And for those who are like trying to figure this out like time wise, it's July 24th or it's June 24th. Uh, but I was at the point where I was looking, I was like, man, I think I've like I don't think I've plateaued, but I felt like I kind of took a step back. And I went to my trainer and I said the same thing. And he was like, dude, you've only taken steps forward since May of last year. He's like, you just gotta relax and kind of look at it. And he's like, not every one of your matches are gonna be bangers. You're not gonna be able to do this, that. And I was like, I know, I get all that. I was like, but there was like a series of matches that I had, and I was like, yo, like I felt like I gave my best performance, but it just didn't feel like it was my best performance. And then this last week, we had a show on a Sunday, and Chaz and I, like, because we have such great chemistry, we just tore the whole place down. And that at that point, I was like, all right, I'm still pretty decent where I'm at, and it was just crazy to see.
I feel like we've had a lot of parallels that way because I started my ref career roughly about the time you were starting your wrestling career. If you look at the parallels that way. And there's been times, even until recently, that I've felt stagnant. I'm like plateaued a little bit. And then I'm like, you know what? Maybe I need to change things up. Maybe I need to start branching out into new environments, into new things, and reaching out here and there. And then you look at your body of work and you look at places that you've been in, matches, even for me as a referee, looking back on certain things. And I'm just like, okay, maybe I'm not such in that where my head is taking me. Okay. Our minds are very weird things where they think you're at a plateau and you're like, no, what I'm thinking is a plateau for me is actually slower forward momentum that I'm giving myself even credit for. So maybe
Yeah,
that's the same thing too.
yeah, I think that's where I was. That's where I hit, and I was just kind of like, man, because like I was thinking about all the places that like I had to sit back and look at all the places, and then what really brought it full forth to me was that the company I went to go wrestle for, which was C3W, that's where I had my first match, and it had been a full year since I had been in that place. And when I came back, a lot of the promoters, and then even the ref there, and one of the guys from the announce team, excuse me, was like, "Dude, you have changed, and you just look like more in tune with like wrestling than what you have done previously." And I was like, "No, I appreciate that." Like that really like kind of gave me like a lot more confidence to just like, all right, cool, we're gonna keep pushing forward with what we're doing.
It's the more and more that you do something is I feel like the more and more you fall in love with it. Because I took a month off and I realized after a month off, really studying, being home and just doing things, I miss it and I love it. Like you realize the more you do sometimes, or even sometimes when you take that break, how much you really love it. So for you, it's like the momentum is how much you've grown in it and your heart's grown in it. Because if it shows in your work, that means your heart's there.
Yeah, it was definitely a lot of fun, and you're right. Like I know because like it's weird like in the whole time and just like growing in this industry. Like it started off like I was unsure, and then I remember like in May like I had a lot of questions like May of 2020 because we had just came back from the pandemic, and I was like, I don't think I'm actually
What do
cut
we
out for
do?
this. Yeah, I was like, I don't think I'm cut out for this. There were so many gaps or so many stops that happened in that first year that it really made me question myself. Like, because I had this, I thought I was like in a better place than where I was for 2020 in May, and like I almost quit on 3 different occasions, and I kept telling myself like to stick it out. And one of those occasions, I actually got injured, and I was like, maybe that's a sign that this isn't supposed to work out for me. And then I think another time, like I got unbooked from a show. I don't even remember what happened, but I remember the first time it was I was in a practice match, and it just felt bad. And I was like, dang. And I felt like I wasted a person's time that was having that practice match with me. And then they pulled me. We end up having it on the podcast, and we talked about it afterwards. And they're like, "No, dude, like you have a lot to learn, but they're like, you're in the right area." And just listening to that and hearing that gave me a lot more confidence. And I was like, all right, let's keep going. Then I got injured. Then another thing happened. I was like, maybe I shouldn't be in here. But it was like April of last year where I was like, let's get it. And I just hit the ground running. And now like I feel like, and it was something another veteran has said to me who knew me from like the first match that I've ever had. He was like, dude, you can tell like you have just filled out and you're way more comfortable in this character than when I first met you. And I was like, oh yes, I appreciate that.
And sometimes it happens that way. It does take time for you to. It's like being like a kid all over again. It takes time for you to grow up in it, develop certain skills, and for you, it's been a nice progress to see. But you seem even more confident when I've seen clips here and there of matches and things like that, or even as a person in this podcast, the second time around, you sound so like in love with the business, which makes me very, very happy. You know, big sis over here is happy, but like it's and it was the same thing, like I said, for me. Like I said, we've had a lot of parallels, and in the beginning I wasn't sure. I was like, is this just going to be a short thing that I do? Is this something that I really want to stick with? And then similar, it took last year, and I'm just like, I really love this. I really love doing this. You know, let's hit the ground running. Let's work here. Let's work it there. Let's do this. And I've gotten some bigger opportunities out of it, and it's built my confidence for it. Believe me, this road and this journey is a lot like life. It's a lot of ups and downs. It's a lot of, do I want to do this? Am I meant for this? Am I built for this? Because it doesn't take, not everybody's built for the highs and the lows of this journey that we're on. And it's a journey whether you're first year in or 30 years in. I mean, it's a journey still every day. You see people on TV that have been doing it for 20 or even 30 years, and they're still on their journey as well. So it's just where the road bumps take you, where life takes you. And like I said, I love this roller coaster. Obviously, if I didn't, I would have gotten off of it a long time ago. And this is somebody in real life that hates roller coasters. So prove that point. But you know, I've even said that to myself recently about a few months ago. It's like I was ready to quit. I was just like, okay, I'm not doing the things that I want to do with it. I don't foresee certain opportunities ever being there for me. I'm not going to go into too much detail on that, but like you and I have had that discussion, like certain things I didn't think were in my future. And it always seems like when I'm ready to pack it in and say, hey, I'm done, a bigger opportunity comes my way. And I'm just like, you know what? I give up. Like the inflatable tube man, I'm like, I'm good. But it's like as soon as I'm ready to hang up and close the chapter, like a whole page of highlights come in. Like, no, you need to read this. So, you know, I ain't giving up. You ain't giving up. And if you do, I may hurt you. So you can't give up. See how that works?
Yeah. Well, and it's something that I've thought about too, right? Is that like I know, and realistically, I know like I'm not going to be a performer forever, right? But I will eventually transition to something different, right? Whether that is to be a referee or a manager or a commentator or an MC of some sort, something will happen. And I know because I listen, this business I knew about since I was a kid. I was a fan of the business. Well, not even the business. I was a fan of wrestling forever. And then getting in, I just fell more in love with everything from behind the scenes. And I'm like, there's no way in this life that I'm living that I'm ever going to find myself pulling away. So from the podcast to actually being in the ring to just being a fan, like I'm always going to be that guy who loves pro wrestling, and I'm okay with that. And I was like, I'm going to find myself in new unique situations no matter where I'm at, whether I'm like the old guy in the corner that's like, "Bruh, you know, back in my day, this is what we did," or the the guy that's the MC who's like up and alive and like getting the crowd hyped up before every single match, or just even the commentator who's the color commentator and just talking trash about the fans. I don't really care. I just want to just be a part of this because this entertainment business is something I've always wanted to be a part of, and I get to find myself in it, and I get excited every time I think about like this Saturday I'm gonna go be performing, and then like next and on Sunday we have the live show like on the podcast. So it's I don't know. It's weird to hear people talk about like the business, and I know like a lot more people have done it longer than I have, but there's those guys out there like a Scorpio Sky or a guy like Josh Alexander who like they've been doing it for so long, but you could just hear the passion in their voice and how much fun they're having. And I'm like, I don't want to miss out on that.
No, and that's why I haven't given up, because even in my moments of when I want to quit in this business, I also hear in my voice how much I want to quit because of how much I care. You know what I mean? Like you hear the care in your voice. It's almost like a breakup that you don't really want to break up with the person. You're just like, yeah, I think we have to do this, but I don't want to do this because I love you. And it's the same thing for me with, you know, with this. I love it so much that I don't really want to walk away. But so I don't. I stick around because I'm like, I ain't finished with you yet. I ain't finished torturing this wrestling profession yet. You guys ain't seen the last of me. But because I love it, and that's the same thing. I loved it as when I was a wrestler. I love it even more so now as a referee. Who knows what else? Another path for me, maybe something different, maybe it will be in podcasting or talking to other people or helping mentor the next generation. Like, who knows where your road is going to take you at that point. But, it's a fun journey. It's a fun journey to learn.
Yeah, and I think about like, and another person like that brought up some really good advice to me too while I was like still in my first year, right? Gino had said, uh, he's like, I was ready to give up, right? He's like, I was ready to quit. He's like, but I thought about it, and he's like, imagine that you're hanging it up, right? The day you hang it up, that next day, someone's like, hey, where's that short Puerto Rican loudmouth guy at? I want to bring him on my show. And they're like, oh, he retired. Oh, bet. Next. And he's like, that could have been me. He's like, so I was like, no, I'm going to hang on. I'm going to keep pushing and keep motivating the next generation, because he's like, I don't want to miss out on that spot. And I think about that too. I'm like, I would love for it to all of a sudden be like, hey, where's that military guy who like has the gun spot, the little pew pew thing that he does. Yeah, we need to bring him on the show. Because I was like, and then they're like, oh, he retired. Like, dang, would you get somebody else to do that? I'm like, I don't want that. I want to be a part of that. Like,
Nope.
and even if they're like, well, he's a mentor now. Like, I don't care. Get him on the show still.
And that's the thing for me too, is do I give up on the goal that I have? Because you and I have talked in length about this as well. Is my ultimate goal is to be the first Latin female signed to a major company. Now, if I decide to give up on that dream, I'm not just doing that for myself. I'm basically giving up on my culture, which I'm not going to do, especially now with everything that's happened in the last 5 or 6 months of my life. It's like fire under me. Let's do it, because there's not that representation there, and easily that could be like, oh, she didn't want to do it, okay, so we'll get somebody who's not an actual referee to do it and put that title in somebody else, and that means that referee, that first ever Latin female referee title, goes to somebody else. And I'm not having it. No, sorry if I sound like about it, but I'm about it. Like, that's my culture, and that's the biggest goal for me, is to inspire the next generation of Latin females that we can do that. And if I quit just because it gets a little hard, or because some of these doors aren't open for me yet, doesn't mean they won't be.
Yeah, it's funny because I was talking with another person too, and we were talking about like the impact of like Latin people in the culture of wrestling, and like I was looking it up. I was like, yo, like how many people from Panama are like famous wrestlers, right? Or just in there. And I was looking on Wikipedia, and man, I was so excited to see the list of 2 names. I was like, I can't quit. Like, I have to get going because there's only 2 people who represent Panama. And I was like, I gotta be the third. Like, I have to be selfishly, because it was one man and one female. I was like, I selfishly like have to have my name on here as a person who's a pro wrestler, who's Panamanian. And I want to be a part of that culture. I was like, I want to be in that world. And I was like, but it was insane to me to look at it and be like, why is there only 2 of us in this world? There's,
Yeah.
I was like, I can't have that. I can't quit now. I have to keep pushing now, and just to see how far I can take this.
And that's what the similar thing is for me, is that I am not ready to give up on that goal, because there isn't a lot of representation that way. There is not. And I hate saying it that way because of whatever, but for me, the diversity thing, especially being very loud and proud, almost too loud Puerto Rican woman, um, I don't want that not to happen. And especially for the culture, because like you said, if you look up certain things in the wrestling encyclopedia or almanac, there's really none female Hispanic referees that have made any sort of impact in this industry, um, yet, yet,
Yet.
and that's what would be the proudest moment for me, is like you said, there can't just be none. There can't just be one. There has to be multiples. And that's honestly, circling back on our sidebar before this, with Mission Pro. Like there, I get to be that. I get to be around other women who are strong, and that place inspires me to no end.
Yeah,
And
I was
yep, you
like,
see it, right?
yeah, because like one day I was like, one day I'm gonna be here. Like I know there's male matches here. One day I'm gonna be in that spot too. I'm gonna be at Mission Pro. You're gonna be like, oh yeah, viva los Latinos and Latinas. Like that's where I want to be.
I was joking around with somebody the other day at work, and he's a huge fan of Thunder Rosas, and I was just like, he's like, you know where I'd like to see you on, and this made me laugh because I was just watching um her taco vlog with Lance Hoyt, and I'm just like, he was like, I want to see you on her taco vlog, and I was like, well, one day, well, one day, speaking into existence, one day, but it's just funny to me that for our culture that we want to represent that, and I feel like that's a big, for me, the big platform.
Yeah, I feel like that's the impact that I want to have too. Because like it's gonna sound I have like, and I don't want to say it like this because it sounds very conceited, and that's fine, I guess, for a little bit. But I
I'm
just
sure.
know where I know my truth. But like I grew up in like a small town. Like I had a teacher legit call it a black hole. Like that was crazy. And I know that I have the small story that I'm a mix myself, right? Being Latin and being white, veteran, right, from the military. Like not saying that we have like all struggles in our lives. That's not what I'm trying to get at. But what it is just like I want to be that light for somebody else that they're like, well, shit, if he can do it, I'm definitely gonna work my ass off to get to what he's doing too. And people can look at my journey. They're like, man, like he went from like being in the military to being here in the wrestling world, and like it wasn't the smoothest transition by any means, but nonetheless, like the time that you put into it is what you're gonna get out of it. And that's what I want. I wanted to grind and make myself, and I'm here now. Now I'm just like grinding harder to get higher and be on the show. Like I made it no secret that next year I want to be in LA. Like hello Hollywood, like I'll be there. Um, and I want to be a part of like the collective. And I'm gonna work my ass off to get there and build my own momentum, which was crazy enough my word of the year. So I'm like, that's all I'm gonna do, just build momentum and get out there and do what I gotta do.
And similar, next year I want to be working at the collective, but for one of the bigger companies. um I've had people tell me on Instagram of one specific person who was like, you inspire me, but because you didn't give up and you didn't quit, I didn't either. And you're inspiring for us Latin women. And I'm like, yes, because my platform with that is that, I may be pale, but I'm still I'm still half Rican. That Puerto Rican blood does run through me. You know, I love Arakangadule as much as the next chick. It's cool. But it's making, for me, it's making the difference that we're not one body type, one stereotype, one nationality. Like it's about the person too, and there is spaces for everybody, no matter your culture as well. But it's nice, like you said, I'm not giving up. There's momentum. There's things that I want to do. There's things that I want to check off the bucket list. And so far, I'm pretty happy within the last 2 years when I've been able to check off my little baby list here. But there's still some other things that I want to get done, and I'm not stopping until I do them. So
Yeah, I looked at my top 10. I have like my top 10 workers that I want to get by the end of 2022, and I have like some other goals I got to hit. I've made it no secret. You guys can go check it out, and you can check out all the different episodes and find what my 2020 list is. But
I want
you're
two of them.
definitely, what's
Who's
that?
two of them? Who's two of them?
So crazy enough, I've actually worked the top two names on my list.
Who are
Uh,
the top two?
TJ Sykes is one of them. And the other one was actually Andino, who Studio Andino on Twitter. If you guys want to go find him, I got to work him too. Who coincidentally is one of the guys that I train with, but we never crossed paths, and we finally got the chance to cross paths in the ring. And yeah, it was awesome. Currently, he is the Fight Club Pro Chocolate City champion, as well as the 1CW Bulletproof champion, and also the Kayfabe Junkies champion, which he won that title off of me. But yeah, so I got to work him, and then a couple names on there too, as well as like Darius Carter and Isaiah Wolf from Prolific are the two of the big names. And another name I get to work too is here soon is Violence, and there's all sorts of other like names out there that I've just mad excited that 2022 is going to provide me those opportunities to work those guys.
Which is awesome. So I'll give you two of my bucket list things because I want to speak them into existence. So we're gonna do the vision board thing right now. You spoke yours, I'll speak mine. One of them is to referee the Ring of Honor Women's Championship match on AEW. That's one of my goals. And then the other one is to be the first Latin female signed to a contract as a referee for Impact Wrestling.
I like that. That's definitely.
Those are my two. So, I mean, two out of the many. I have my vision board on my phone as my background. This way I never keep my vision out of sight. Whether it's home, on my fridge, back of my phone. You actually inspired me. I think tonight I'm going to write out again my new list of people whose matches I want to referee. Oh, by the way, I'm adding Red Dawg to that.
That's right.
Boom. Boom. Let's speak that into existence. Let's get on that, okay?
Hell yeah. Have Ref Layne with one of my matches. I would definitely appreciate that.
Hell, Derby Dog may come out of retirement and wrestle Red Dawg.
You know what? I welcome that.
I thought about it the other day. I was just like, because I was at a wrestling show and they needed a girl to wrestle, and they were like, "Oh, would you do it?" And I'm like, I haven't done it in a year and a half, but sure. I didn't have to actually ref the match that they needed, so I was like, okay, I'm good. Okay, I'll keep my stripes. It's fine.
So the crazy thing is one of my big goals that I want to hit by October is actually be on AEW Dark at least once. So I put that out there numerous times. I've said on numerous episodes of this podcast that that's definitely like that is the top goal, is to get there. So the only way I'm gonna get there is if I'm building up my own momentum, which is what I've been working on. And like, obviously this podcast is like helps supply that, because like I've worked with different wrestlers and get to talk to different wrestlers about how to get to those positions and build myself up so that people see me. But yeah, AEW Dark is definitely like that number one spot that I definitely want to hit. So there's that.
There's that. And let's speak these things into existence. I feel like manifesting is like a big thing that it works and it helps. I mean, like I've said to you previously, I manifested my WWE tryout. I literally saw the email that somebody else got, and I said, I'm going to be at that one too. 2.5 weeks before my tryout, I would look at the email every couple of days, and I was just like, you know what? I'm going to be there with this person. Like, I'm going to be there too. 2.5 weeks before my tryout, I get an email. Hey, you're at the next show. Wait a second, that worked? Wait a minute. It needs to happen more often. I need to speak my stuff into existence.
Well, it's like I've been like posting up like so much more, and that's why I've been posting up a lot more clips and stuff like that, because I definitely see like a lot of other people who post up their clips and stuff like that, and then start to get like build that momentum up. And I'm like, all right, let me start putting this clip up. Let me take that clip. Let me update this. Let me take care of that. So like I'm always like trying to like put out there like, hey, like notice me.
I'm here. Hi.
I'm right here. It's I don't know, but it's gonna be a lot of fun regardless of what happens. Because the funny thing is when you mentioned the Ring of Honor, I was actually at in Baltimore at the AEW where Mercedes Martinez and Deonna Purrazzo wrestled for the ROH Women's title to unify that belt.
I was watching at home. I was definitely watching at home.
Yep.
I definitely, when I saw the finish of that match, I was teary-eyed, and it was such a good match won. And for the winner of that match, that person holds a special place in my heart as a friend, and I was just like, I'm so happy for you. So happy for you.
It was crazy like watching that match, because like in the crowd, like being there, like the crowd was semi lively, but there was a spot like, and I know because I've gone back and watched and listened, and you could just hear me loud as shit. Like there's just a dead spot, and it's like right at the opening chain sequence, and you just hear this guy like, "Woo, wrestling!" That's me. That's me. Just
We gotta go
so
listen to it back now.
yeah, so happy because like Deanna Prazo, like she did this role, she got Mercedes in this like crazy arm lock, and then like she gave the appearance like obviously she like hyperextended the elbow with her feet, and like I popped. I was like, yo, this is amazing. And everybody like and the whole section just like it just felt like that moment where you ever see like the cartoon shows where like who said that and like everybody moves and they just point to the person, and that was me. Like I just looked around and everybody was just staring at me. I was like, hi, that was me who said that.
Everybody's giving you this look.
Yo,
Like, who's this guy?
who's that guy? You know, the other part, like if you watch that episode too, and as you see John Moxley walking in front of like the crowd, and
Hmm.
like there'll be a crowd to his left, and there's like really TV stands, and like the hard cam is on the right, and I'm just right there, like I'm right behind the hard cam, and you
You're like,
just
hey
see me
guys.
just
That's
looking
when you
like
have
an
your
idiot.
shirt on, and you're
Yo, I
like,
have my hoodie. I have my hoodie that has this logo on. I'm just right there.
oh, I didn't even. Since we're talking about shirts, hold on. This will make sense to what I was saying.
Hey,
Latina pride, baby.
hell yeah! But oh, it was a trip to be a part of it. But just seeing Mercedes and Gianna Prazo like in the ring working, and I learned so much. Like I learned so much about like TV and angles and stuff. Just like being at AEW and just like watching it play out. And I was like, yo, there's so much to like ingest and try to interpret. And I had to go back and watch that episode over again just so that I can remember, like, oh yeah, they were doing this at this spot. Oh yeah, they were doing this at this. They were working this, but I saw this going on here at the same time, and it's like just seeing it on TV versus like what it was like being there live, and then just thinking about like how like different forms of communication were happening. I was like,
Hmm.
this is so cool.
That's my favorite part of being backstage for TV, whether it's doing extra work when I did extra work for WWE or being, when I worked for Impact. And that part is what I love. I love watching the production side, what goes into it. I love being immersed in the TV. That was the game changer for me because I was just like, I love this. This is amazing because then you see it from a different perspective. You don't see the finished product that you see on TV. You see how their promos get done and how they push structure matches, how the agents have a helping hand in that, and how they use the referee for time cues and whether it's in commercial and things like that. You get to see that live, but somebody on TV may not see all of that.
Yeah, it was so cool. And I was like, I was sitting there watching part of the like a lot of the matches, and the way like it was so weird because like something happened uh during that show that I haven't happened before. Because like a lot of wrestling I watch as a fan, and I'm just invested, and I get caught up in the moments, and I just like I don't know, I turn into a little schoolboy, like watching it, and I'm like giddy about it. But I was watching the show live, and I found myself like watching things and just noticing things from a different perspective. And since then, I have not been able to watch wrestling the same way because I'm just like, all right, cool. So this is where we're going in. All right, here's where the double downs come in. All right, bet. And then like I just find like a whole different way of like, and I'm like, I don't know whether I like it or not, but it's definitely a lot more enticing to me. I'm just like, all right, now I feel like I'm picking up like on a lot more stuff, and it's weird to have that happen because like as a kid you grow up and you're just like, oh yeah, oh did you see that big movie hit him with, and now I'm like, did you see that wrist lock?
Yeah, because you went from watching it for purely entertainment value to watching it now like this is my study guide. This is something I want to watch. Maybe this is something I can pick up on. It's like I said, it's almost like watching it as a study guide. You watch it for the fact of you can learn something from it, or to see it from the technical aspect of it rather than, oh, this is just cool.
Yeah. It's been so unique to like have this whole thing change in front of me, and I'm like, nice. I enjoy this a lot more. Uh Listen, so Lane, we play a game on this show, right? So if you're a part of Now Engineering, we have the 3 Count Podcast, 10 Count Questions. Obviously, on the live shows, we have the Red Dogs Power Rankings. But on this show, we play 3 rounds of pin, submit, or DQ.
Okay.
So I'm gonna give you either 3 characters, 3 people, 3 movies, whatever is coming off the dome is just is what you're gonna get. But for our warm up round, right? This is round 1. We're gonna go with 3 people that you may be familiar with, right? So we're gonna go with uh we're gonna go I had it and I just lost. So we're gonna go with Mercedes Martinez. We're gonna go with Gabby Gilbert, and we're also gonna go with Thunder Rosa. So you got to pin 1, submit 1, and DQ 1.
Okay. This is going to be a little hard. Pin Gabby, because I feel like I would have to go with submission to Mercedes because of just how good she is with submissions. Not to say Thunder Rosa's not, but I would do disqualification with Thunder Rosa because of her match versus Britt Baker. So I feel like that woman can, yeah, yep, those are my 3. So pin Gabby, submit Mercedes, and then DQ Thunder Rosa.
All right. So our next one, right? We're gonna make this a little bit more complicated, right? So
Okay.
we're gonna go with a lot of people's favorite Colombiana herself. I say that because she was in that movie, Zoe Saldana. We're gonna take Jennifer Lopez, and then everybody's favorite Latina herself, Selena.
Oh, okay. So pin, you said Zoe Saldana was the first one, right?
Right.
Okay. Pin her, submit Jennifer Lopez because this is truly girly bisexual reasons. Submission so I can feel up on that booty, okay? And then obviously DQ Selena because I wouldn't want to do anything to her. I would just go out and DQ myself. I would get the 10 count on that one.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
definitely submit J-Lo. Just saying.
That, and then our last one that we're gonna do, right? We'll probably take this back into the wrestling world. We're gonna have a lot of fun with this one. But let's go with what people would consider the top 3. We're gonna take Sasha Banks, we're gonna take Dr. Britt Baker, DMD, and then last but not least, we're gonna take Deonna Purrazzo.
Okay, that's a good one. Submission with Deonna because you want to out submit the submission queen on my end.
Right.
DQ would be, you said Sasha Banks, Britt Baker. I would do DQ with Britt Baker for the same reason as Thunder Rosa. I feel like we could do some damage with each other with the DQs. And then pin Sasha.
You gotta pin Sasha because, like, you know what? Hey, she elevates talent. She's gonna elevate you, and I'll be honest, man. If I'm pinning Sasha. Like, just like, yo, no, I just want this win. I don't care.
Yep.
Because like in wrestling, whether it's by luck or you're cheating or you get a legitimate 3 count, like, hey, yo, you just getting that 3 count. That's all that matters.
And I feel like with Deonna, that would be the biggest challenge and honor is to out submit her and get one on her rather than the Fujiwara armbar. So like It would have to be a submission with that one.
Oh yeah, to submit to Virtuosa, I could definitely get behind that. All right, so Layne, let our listeners and our viewers know where they can find you.
I am on Twitter and Instagram under Latina Ref Layne.
And she also has her own pro wrestling tees where you guys can go pick up her stuff. It's under the same name, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah. So make sure go buy her gear and support her. You know, give her likes, give her the follows. But like every great part of a wrestling match, we got to take this home because this is the 3 Count Podcast presents Now Entering 201. And you guys know who I am, Clifford Red Dawg Miller, the man that leads you up this mountain called wrestling. But it's never about me. It's about who's entering. And you see her right next to me, the Latina pride herself, the referee, Layne Rosario. And you guys know what to do. Tune in to the next episode and be there, or you better be clicking on the link to Pro Wrestling Tees, buying our t-shirts, liking our stuff, liking this video, commenting on it, sharing with your friends, and doing all the good stuff. Or you're really just waiting for this episode to end, you're waiting for the outro, and then you're choosing another episode to listen to. Peace. What's going on, 3 Count Nation? I'm Clifford Red Dawg Miller with the catchphrase. But what I really want you to do right now, go to twitter.com, right? Go over there, find us at the 3count_pod, give us a follow, give us a like, give us a comment. We want to talk to you guys. Go to IG at the 3countpod, give us a like, give us a follow, leave us a comment. We want to interact with you. Go to youtube.com, give us a subscribe, turn the bell on, turn the notifications, leave a comment. We want to talk to you. Go to anchor.fm/the 3 Count Podcast, and in there, you can leave us a message, and we will talk to you. Basically, what I'm trying to tell you is that we want to talk to you. We want to have fun with you guys, and we love listening to what you guys have to say. Also, one thing I need you to do for me, the 3 Count Podcast also has merchandise. Oh! At prowrestlingtees.com/the 3 Count Pod. Please, go buy our t-shirts. We love you guys, and we hope you love us too. So, show us some support, please.